All right. So you're everybody on this podcast is in agreement. Cardinals are losing out. Is that a huge indictment on Kyler Murray, or are you seeing enough from
No.
Kyler Murray, the passing yards, kind of notwithstanding, no turnovers today, passer rating of 90 plus. People are out with pitchforks saying you got to move off of him. Are you guys still in the position where like Kyler Murray didn't hurt himself today, may not have helped himself exponentially, but like maybe Bo, victim of circumstances to some degree? Like, how do you assess Kyler Murray today and then into these next two games, knowing that the Cardinals are probably going to lose these next two games?
I mean, the performance are going to be key still. Each and every performance is big for Kyler Murray, learning this new offense. I don't think I don't think it's unfair to say I'm disappointed so far. Like I'm still expecting to see somewhat of a breakout performance, and just haven't seen it. Right, we just haven't seen him get into the zone where he's dealing and he's hitting on a bunch of passes and really finding his rhythm. I think he finished the first half like 8 for his last 10, but still we haven't seen him really since his debut come out and really light the world on fire. And I think that you wanted at least one or two of those performances before the end of the season to say, okay, he still got it. And to really kind of put to bed the conversation that was there last season, because last season at that point was the one time you saw kind of his development stunt a little bit. And it's unfortunate that you couldn't do that. I don't think you can just say without a reasonable doubt, like, hey, he's legit going to be back, because I don't think he's shown you anything to prove that. I mean, you can still remain optimistic and also look at all the facts that are in the variables that play into this, as far as his ACL injury and the roster that he inherited when he came back, and just the uphill climb he immediately got into in week 10. But still, like, I think that he had the ability and has the opportunity to kind of silence some chatter out there, and just hasn't done it with his play yet. And it doesn't mean that, hey, get him out of here on the next plane out of Phoenix, and he still remains, I think, your best option moving forward, but still hasn't been able to silence those critics, and now only has 2 games left on the season to do so.
No, I agree. He didn't help himself. He didn't do anything to help himself today. But he definitely didn't do anything to hurt himself. I mean, there was a couple passes that sailed on him. I get that, but there's a couple passes that sail on everybody in the NFL, and that's it's not making excuses for him, but he didn't lose you the game, right? Yeah. And that's, I mean, if it was to the point where he was losing you games, then yes, move on, get rid of the cap hit, whatever you got to do. But I don't think, like you said, he hasn't hit us with the wow factor yet, which I just don't think he's comfortable in this offense to where he feels like he can just sit back, because he can't, honestly. He can't sit back there, wait for something to develop, and let it fly. Because even if he's in the gun, he gets the ball in his hands, and it's like, make a decision or get out of the pocket and go somewhere else. Try to not get tackled, try to not get sacked, and then try to make something happen. And he just hasn't had the comfortability factor that we've seen in the past when he can sit back there and throw for 350, 400 yards, because we've seen it. We saw it 2-3 years ago. We've seen it happen since he's been in the league. I don't think he's comfortable enough with an offensive line in front of him and receivers on the outside to where he thinks he doesn't have somebody on the outside that he can say, that guy's going to win, right? There's nobody like for the Buffalo Bills, Hail Murray play. Right, we have nobody on this offense that can do what D-Hop did and go up there. And Kyler's not throwing that ball up there to anybody in this offense. Right now, there's no chance that he would sit back there and be like, I have nowhere to go. I'm going to just throw this thing up and and know that I got a number one guy down there that's at least going to make a play on it. If he doesn't catch it, he'll bat it down. We don't have that guy. So I feel like there's zero comfortability for him in the pocket, even outside of the pocket, trying to stretch it, because you can see what happens. As soon as he feels uncomfortable, it's, where's my running back? Where's my tight end? Even if they're on the opposite side of the field of where he's running to, he's looking for a tight end or a running back because he knows he has no help. So the comfortability factor is what's hurting him in making these big. It has to do with that play calling him just, not ready to throw, not being ready to throw, his mind is not there. And that goes back to that comfortability part, right? He doesn't feel comfortable enough to let the ball fly. From what I'm seeing.
Let's get back to some of these super chats. Free matter for the blind, $5. Do the players need another year in Petzine's offense or rip the Band-Aid, hire a new OC? They're going to give Petzine another year. I've got that source 100%. He's not getting fired. Who are you going to get to take this job if you fire a guy who didn't have his quarterback till November? I think Gannon's got a lot of friends around the NFL who coach offense. And I think if we're in the same position next year, first of all, God help us, but they'll have options. But I mean, Drew just put up 29 points and over 400 yards against San Francisco. Like, I think you're getting inconsistent performances because of the state of the roster. But I'm optimistic. I think he can. Listen, he's really helped Trey McBride. The run game for the most part has been fantastic. We go back to this every week. The receivers are just not good enough. Thomas, $5 holds everyone in this roster. Where do you even start? You start with you open the checkbook. And you go through the roster and say, is there a guy on the free agent market that's better than what we have? Does it make sense from an age perspective? Does it make sense culture-wise? Does it make sense in terms of like bringing him in and his ability to connect with the roster? Like, that's where I would start, Bo. I would say, okay, does T. Higgins want to play here? Is T. Higgins available? How much is T. Higgins going to cost? Does his brand fit with what we want to do? And then just go through piece by piece, line by line. I would go through relationships that Ossenford, Gannon, Petzine, everybody's made throughout the NFL, like they did with Yelder Froldhold, like they did with Kazir White. And then in the draft, I mean, I still think the play is if you don't get Marvin, you take one of the two tackles.